Custody.
has no school today.
Yeah.
So I have childcare duties myself.
Oh, this is terrible for both of you. Okay, well, we'll try to make it
All
efficient.
good.
Okay. All right, so we are on, according to
Yes.
what I see, we're on YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the Facilities and Services Committee meeting on Thursday, March 4th at 11 a.m. Present are committee members Angie DiBernardo, Aaron Grube, Nancy Rogoff, and our CAO Rob Jameson. We're also expecting, and here she is, the chairman of our Parks Commission, Ann DeKonig. All right, so we are, this is really a work session for this committee. The problem that I think I'd like to discuss today is developing some type of process that we can use to better organize the temporary displays that go up in our public parks over the November and December. Over the last few years, we've had a rise in the number of groups that are decorating in the downtown area. I mean, traditionally, we've had the Jaycees, and we're very grateful for their decorations. They decorate the entire town, but when it's a lot easier when you have one group doing one thing. But now we've had the Chamber of Commerce come in with some decorations. We've had the merchants, downtown merchants, come in with some decorations. And it's created a little confusion come November and December, where different groups don't know what each group is doing. And it might be better for us to have a more organized process where we can have people apply for decorations and know what's going to be happening in the park, and let them, help them to work together so that we don't end up stepping on each other's toes. And I'd like to say at the outright that this is a good problem to have. This is not in any way designed because we love the fact that we have a lot of different groups that want to contribute and decorate, and we're very grateful that we have a lot of private organizations that want to pitch in. And I personally think that the interest in doing this is spawned by the fact that our people want to get visitors to downtown Sugar and Falls, that there's a lot of pressure on small business and retail and brick and mortars. And over the last several years, there's been a push to try to get people to come to visit Sugar and Falls during the all-important holiday shopping season. So I guess what I'd like to see us do today is to develop some type of very rough draft proposal of how we might I'll ask people to apply for decorations in the park, and then organize their applications so that come November and December, we have a smoother process. And I'd like the goal also for us to, I think we're all concerned with preserving the aesthetics of our public parks so that they don't end up being cluttered and they look good for everyone. And also we don't want to overly tax the staff time. Both of those are things that we need to attend to when we put together an idea. Now, I'm very lucky because both Aaron Grube and Nancy Rogoff have served as our representatives to the Parks Commission in years past, and both of them have a lot of thoughts on this process. So I am going to actually ask them to start the conversation by telling me what you think would be a good process for us to use going forward. So I don't know who wants to go first. I know Aaron sent me an outline for an application that she had worked on. It's a rough draft. And I know Nancy, you and I have discussed a more overarching view of an entire process. What do you have that you've put together in the past? Do you want to start, Nancy, or should we just jump into an application?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see the application.
Oh, this is just this. It's not really an app. It's just notes.
I guess my just like overarching thoughts on the thing. I think we should set date parameters.
Okay.
Just now, for example, I wrote this down, but it's just an example. Like from November 15th through January 15th. That would be the time period, or some other,
I think that's important because I think that whatever we would be proposing, this would be strictly for the winter season.
Right.
These rules would only apply to the winter season, and every other times of year, we would go by our regular rules for things going into.
And reconsider some of those too. But this is just specifically for the holiday season.
Great.
Okay. So I think we need some parameters so they're up not before a certain date, and they have to come down by a certain date. so that they're not, like some people leave their Christmas decorations up all year.
So you had said November 15th to January what? January.
November 15th through January 15th. I mean, that's just arbitrary.
Sure.
It seems like a,
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. And I think that's around when we normally have the decorations.
that's what I was trying to think.
Right.
Yeah, the JCs normally go up the second weekend in November is what they told me. So I would maybe suggest November 8th, just so that it's,
And that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this was,
Yeah.
I was just trying to figure out when,
Sure.
I was thinking like the week before Thanksgiving is when they do it, but if,
Right.
yeah, so the 8th.
Okay, so November 8th.
15th should give everybody enough time to get the stuff down after the holiday.
Sure.
I mean, after, New Year and stuff. So, if we're gonna have, more than the JCs now, the space requested, like what area of which park, I have that later, but what part of the park? So, so that we don't want one person coming in and taking over the whole park.
Agreed.
Or one group or one thing. So
Right.
some kind of designation of the space. And so that we leave space for people to walk around the park too, so that it's not completely cluttered and.
So
yeah.
that's a big question. I guess, do we want to divide up? Do we want to define areas in the park? And if so if we want to define areas, then I don't know if that's something that administration should do, if it should go to the Parks Commission, or if we should say, here's a proposal, or all of the above, like.
And all of the above. I mean, my recommendation would be that we delineate the areas of the parks. We can divide them in a few different spaces, but we need to clear, in order to have enforceable controls of where you can put something, we need to say these are the spaces where you can put something. And I
Okay,
think if we lead with, this is where we're comfortable with stuff being, because we want to retain open space for other recreational activities, I think it's a very logical and defensible rationale based on, Dale's advice to us.
so we should generate a map of the three major parks, I guess. So Triangle, Riverside, and River Run are the ones that, and I guess in Bell Street Park.
Bell Street.
In Bell Street
Yeah,
Park.
I had included Bell Street, yeah.
Okay, and then define space within this, and having just walked through with the streets department and with Anne on the location of these flowers, I know there are certain areas that are better than others, so I guess we can just like label them A, B, C regions, or like give them names.
Yeah.
And okay, so we can so that should be a goal for the next time we come back. We'll try to have a map that we can say, okay, these are proposed areas, and work that out. So I'm just trying to get myself a goal list for our next meeting.
Go ahead.
Oh, the other thing I was to say is the other thing we need to say is in other delineated areas of the village, because we have some non-park spaces that get decorated.
Yep.
Specifically in front of Village Hall and our light poles. I mean,
Grove
I
Hill.
would consider the verbiage that we allow light pole decorations in the downtown district, and then X number of feet outside of that. Or just light poles have, we could clarify that, but right now all of our light poles are not decorated. It's probably like within maybe 500 feet of the central shopping.
I know they put some Christmas or some holiday trees
Right.
on like West Orange, Chagrin Boulevard as you come
Yep.
into town, on Grove Hill, on North Main Street there. And I'm not sure about other areas, but those I know are just a tad outside.
Well,
of the-
and also below the falls is not actually a park. That's village land, but it's not a park in the same way. So
They do throw a couple of trees down there sometimes, right?
yeah,
So-
if the water works is what they told me.
right. Well, it makes sense. I mean, it's a safety issue in some
Yeah.
ways, right? And
Totally.
so,
Also, it depends on how many trees they have.
right.
So I think
Um,
by other delineated village spaces, we can,
Okay, so we're gonna generate a map of our 4 downtown parks.
And I have one idea, when you're, when you segment out those areas per park, if you, say you have 5 areas at each park that you
Sure.
want to put decorations, each park has you can designate with a letter and then a number. So
Right.
instantly, if you're at space T4, that's Triangle Park, space 4, it's very
Right.
easy to keep track,
That's a good
and
idea.
coordinate and know exactly who's supposed to go where.
I think that's what we
um,
should do. Yeah,
And it'd be very simple, like Riverside R 1 through 5,
right.
B, Bell Street Park B, I mean, it's pretty simple, a letter and a number. And then you can keep track of it, you know, as if you do get multiple applications. And then on the application form, we could also put in items like the placement of decorations must be coordinated to avoid, you know, disturbing of any underground utilities or the sprinkler system. So
Exactly.
don't have any unforeseens with that.
Sure.
You know, meet with, you know, appointment with the village prior to placing decorations to ensure that those won't be damaged. No blocking of any pathways, sidewalks, or, you know, public pedestrian ways in any of the areas, or no blocking of any park features like benches or, you know, things like that. And then I know also the idea we've talked about is about putting any kind of writing or any acknowledgement of sponsorships and how we want to address that.
Right. So I think a map is a good idea, and defining the public area, and then defining the public areas in terms of the light poles and things like that. I guess that Aaron has written up a list. I'll pass that on to you, Rob, and you can see if we're missing
Okay.
anything. Just so that we have that coming back, we'll have a list of these are, you know, whatever the light poles or anything on the street, or you said Grove Hill, that we know that we've already acknowledged the decorations go there.
Right.
Okay, and then the park will divide up, and we'll get that map for the next meeting. I'll work with you, Rob, and I'll work with Parks.
Okay.
And, you know, I would like to have it so that administration and parks and facilities are all kind of working together, so that we get so that we all are on the same page about, you know, what we're trying to do. All right, signage is a big issue.
Yeah,
Signage,
And
Go
I
ahead.
think in my proposal is no signs.
Okay,
Before
I
we
think
go on to
Aaron has
signs,
something
can I
else,
say
yeah.
one thing?
Sure.
I would include the phrase that additional locations may be considered
Yes,
with
yes.
a request to facilities and services or through the administration, but sort of say that there's this other avenue if something else should be considered. I don't know what that should necessarily look like. I don't have a grasp on that in my head.
You
But there
don't
might be
wanna,
something
like,
we
close
missed,
it
and I
off.
want to have a venue that's organized for adjustments if we need to.
I agree. I think we should have a clause or something that says, you know, if somebody comes to us with some proposal that's not something we've approved, we're not saying, hey, the door is entirely closed,
Right.
but you have to, it's not planned. So, you know, I mean, if they want to come to a committee or come to administration and propose something, we can say no then, if there's a strict reason why we've said not to do that. But it may be just something, like you said, we haven't thought of.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I agree that, you know, we don't want to, oh, yes, Anne, go ahead.
I was going to say, you need to include the railings where the J.C.'s decorate, you know, with their swags.
The bridge and all that as well.
Yeah.
right?
And also, is this application going to be so that people understand that they have to go to parks first before it's voted on by council?
I don't know. I mean, I guess that's how we were envisioning. I don't know if it's coming. Do you normally approve the J.C.'s decorations, Anne?
We don't anymore because it's an ongoing kind of a thing.
I think it
Just-
usually comes to administration directly, as what I.
It does,
yeah.
but in the instance this year with the chamber trees at the entrance to the park, they're advertising, and now these
Right.
inflatable flowers, those never came to parks, and they should have come to parks first.
Sure.
My sense on these decorations is that we have the council has a legislative authority to define the rules and the parameters around which decorations can be put up. And then my feeling is that it then needs to go to the administration for enforcement and review. So I don't think we need to have council. I just guess I don't,
Agreed.
I sat on this for a while. I just don't think we should be voting on every.
We
Yeah,
don't
okay.
vote on
Christmas
decorations.
tree
Yeah,
for
we
this,
don't
right.
vote on the decorations. I think what we're trying to do is create a process where this isn't an event. This is, holiday decorations are going to happen every year. Let's create a process by which we think people can work with the administration, and it'll be something. So this is our opportunity, I think, and this would be Parks' opportunity to help set the rules so that administration can
Yep.
execute them. So I think
Okay.
that's what we're trying to do, is streamline a little, because, and also, I mean, we've found the holidays just gets crazy, you know, and everybody's coming up and they're popping up with new ideas and new things. And like I said, I don't want to suppress that energy, but we have to have some kind of control over what's happening, just because, you know, a lot of times, you know, you come down to the park and there's a new thing there, and you just, don't even know where it came from. So
There needs to be order.
yeah, I know, it's sad, but we need some order. So,
Right.
all right, so, okay, so we're, in terms of the map, in terms of defining areas, we have an idea. Signage, I think, is our next controversial issue. So I don't know if we should just directly discuss that, or if you want to tick off some of these other application items. Let's go right into the controversy, and then we'll tick off the other ones later.
I think we need to say no signage.
Signage is where we run into a lot of problems. We obviously don't want advertising in the park. We're not supposed to have advertising in the park. And I'm sensitive. I mean, I'm empathetic to organizations, and I understand what they're trying to do. You know, we've all worked for not-for-profits. We all know how this goes, but we can't have our public parks being used for advertising. So I think we need to give some clear guidance to these groups on what they're going to be allowed to do, so that when they go to their sponsors or people, they can tell them what they can and they can't do. So I think that's the discussion. I'm not totally like, we can't have any sign at all. If we have any sign, it better be small and tasteful, and it can't be a big advertising thing. That's my opinion, but I do respect Nancy's opinion that sometimes the best way to do it is to say nothing. Erin.
I mean,
Okay,
The
so my-
JCs don't have signage for their.
No, they don't.
elaborate display.
I guess I would personally be comfortable with a very small sort of sign indicating that this display was presented by, you know, XYZ organization. I don't think it should include sponsorships. I think, you know, when you look at advertising in parks, no one has an exclusive use during the holidays. Like, this is not an event where you're, you know, setting something up. You know, it's a 2-month open window here. So I guess I would say something small, and I do think the signage actually should go through the village. Once the application is approved, I do think the village should be able to approve the sign.
Yeah, but the signage, you can't look at the content of a sign when you're deciding whether to post it or not. You can't look at the words on it. You can control the size of it,
Right, like we could say it can be,
not the words on it.
but we can also, we can't require it just to be a simple logo.
No.
What if we made the sign?
I was wondering that myself. I wonder if that's a Dale question. I was wondering if there was any way we could say, hey, this is the sign that's allowed in the village, that, you know, in the park, you know, and it's put up by us. You know, we acknowledge like and maybe one per area. If we're saying, look, there's 5 areas in Riverside, there'd only be 5 potential signs. But I don't know whether that's legal. I agree. This is a First Amendment issue. This is, I want to get a list of questions that we have to take to Dale. I think nobody wants to see a bunch of signs cluttered all over the park. And if the answer is we have to say no signage, and Nancy is correct, the JCs have done this for years, and they've never put up a sign saying, hey, the JCs did this, then maybe that's what we have to do. I'm just willing to try to find a middle ground if there's a middle ground.
And from a selfish standpoint, I view a small sign that says this was put up by the chamber, or this was put up by the Merchants Association, this was put up by, you know, the JCs. It means that people can then contact those organizations directly when they have questions or other things that they would like to share with them.
What
Look at you
about,
finding this little meeting.
yeah, but what about, you know, Key Bank, Chase Bank?
No, it's
If
true.
they start putting signs up.
Yeah, there's a slippery slope. I completely agree with
slippery
you.
slope.
And if we can't,
Absolutely.
if we have zero control over content, then I prefer no sign. But
I
if
agree
we
with
can
you.
say it can only be the organizational logo and it has to be like, you know, small, then I would be fine with that.
But what organization? A nonprofit, are you saying?
The organizer on the application.
But the organizer might be Chase Bank, aren't they? Or Key Bank or the hardware.
Chase Bank applies to us and says they want to put up a tree or something.
Organization means,
It's true. I mean, and if that's how it went, I mean, if a Chase Bank decided they wanted to donate a giant tree to put in the center of town, the question is, would we allow them to say this tree was donated by Chase Bank? And that's a question. I mean, I guess I'm not opposed to small signage acknowledging who did something. And I'm saying small, not only in size, but also in, there would be one sign for like a large area of the park. Like if this area has, you know, a festival of trees, then we have one sign that says the Chamber of Commerce did this festival of trees. And that's only because I do understand that these organizations sometimes do want credit. But I agree, if it's where we can't control content, we can't control number, then I would prefer to say nothing. I would say, let's just not have signs, because it can get way out of control. And I think we all know that. Now, Rob, I don't know, do you want to weigh in on this? Have you dealt with this anywhere else, or do you have any opinions? It's a tough
I mean,
issue.
I just think I understand and clearly recognize the concern of having signage with companies' names on it. And there is a very thin line between trying to acknowledge somebody's donation or,
Mhm.
their ability to put something up and then using that as an advertising tool. And clearly there was concern over what was put up last December at Riverside Park. And, I think, I'm only worried from the standpoint of what if there is so you have people that want to put up various religious-based decorations and might want to have like a sign saying Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah or any other holiday message on the sign, and how do we possibly allow something like that versus not allowing a company name or something like that? We might have to look at the legal.
Right. I think it's a
aspects
legal
of that,
question.
or just allow no wording at all, and that your message just has to be visual with the type of decoration you're putting up. Because we don't want this to turn into a
Sure.
commercial enterprise of people decorating just to get their name out in a unique way.
Right. Okay, so I think that's a question I can send to Dale, in terms of how much control we have over signage. And I guess Nancy's off screen for right now, but I'm guessing that the sentiment of the committee is that if we can not have control, that we're going to, that the option we would explore would be no signage.
Correct.
Okay, so Nancy, I'm going to take this question to Dale in terms of how much control we would have on these types of signs, what we would be able to do and not able to do. And then at our next committee meeting, we will decide if the level of control we would have is acceptable or not, or whether we want to opt to say no signage. Okay, so that's where that issue is landing. Is that, anybody have any other comment on signs, or should I, that's okay, I've got my marching orders on that. All right, so to the application, let me just,
Well, I had
Yeah.
a couple more things that I had, let's see, a deposit. Do you want to require a deposit or not? And this would probably be part of the language, like the prologue to the application, detailing what the rules are. A deposit if we're going to require one, and maintaining, some language in there about you have to maintain the thing.
or it can be
know,
removed.
thing out
right.
or
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And a time period for accepting applications. I mean, I put June 1st to June 30th, but
And
it
that,
could be anything, but we should have a specific time period. We will accept applications for temporary holiday lighting from this time to this time.
sure. And I think summer is the best time to do that. I'm not sure whether, should we make it only a month, or is there?
I don't know. I mean, that just, sometimes
Right.
the shorter the better, but that's just, again, arbitrary. And then listing the park locations. And then I had a question about Triangle Park and how do we balance
Yeah.
this with what we typically do in the village,
So
our sort of standard, Triangle Park.
Well, in Triangle Park now, having toured that park recently, is all set up to basically anchor a large tree. So, with the
Right.
anchors in the ground, it's kind of just that one location is somewhat designed for a specific decoration. So go ahead, Rob.
I have a question also,
Sure.
something you might want to think about is not just the space that we would allocate for decorating, but, maybe some sort of size and extent of the decoration that would be placed in that space. It's one thing to put up, say, a small tree or a small religious display or a small, like a lighted type item. It's another thing to do a whole collection of those to really, try to be as big and as large as possible. And I didn't know if we wanted to, how we'd be able to define size and scope, or even if we wanted to. But I
Well,
just want everyone to think about that a little bit too.
I agree. Like if we can define like this particular location, so as you've said, like say we have T1, T2, in terms of locations, you can have a decoration of this scale.
Yeah,
And that would be
What if we get those locations sort of like
sorted out first.
identified, and then
Yeah.
see if there's some spaces that we want to, like, because we have some parameters. It doesn't mean they need to be across the board parameters. They could be location specific
And
parameters.
the question that I have too, and I guess this is a Dale question as well, is if people apply and they don't have a specific location in mind, can we assign them to a location? Would it be okay for us to say this goes here, or is that something we need to leave open?
I think we can leave that open, and I think we can say these are the spaces that are available. You know, we can discuss that with them, kind of like, you know, when other groups are looking to do things, here's your space available, here's your choices. What would you prefer? And then we could do that on an administrative level and help them fit. I wouldn't want to make the choice for them, but I would want to say, here's your 5 or 6 options or even more that are available. And
Okay.
what do you think?
And some things will overlap, like the sleigh from the merchants does overlap with the tree from the JCs. So it just, you know what I mean? Like what we're going to have, some of it's just going to have to be done through fit and figure, if you will, I guess.
Yeah.
for lack of a better term.
I think rather than a general area, I think we need to delineate specific areas. I
We
mean,
do.
that would also control the size, to Rob's point, it would control the size of what's put there.
Okay.
And things really shouldn't overlap. I mean, if I decorate this particular tree, then you put another tree next to it to decorate.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, if the sleigh wanted to go underneath the tree, I would say that that's incumbent on those organizations to work together as opposed to us, you know, I mean, then they are 2 separate applications for decoration. So they would have to go in 2 separate areas, you know.
And maybe that's a question too. I mean, that, you know, some people like the chamber trees, they put them there. The JCs decorate trees that are trees, you know, living trees that are in the ground already.
Right, they're not, they're not.
Yeah, so I mean, that's something to think about too. Do we want to allow, you know?
Well, that's true. So in the notes that Aaron sent for the application, let's just tick those off because you just hit an issue that is in this that I think we need to address. So the application must include the responsible party. So this is this is following the event type application. The type of decoration proposed including size, weight where applicable, details of any required support or stabilization. And then the location of proposed decorations, we've already addressed that, and we're going to get a map and we're going to get a lot of information on that. Power needs, insurance. They must list the Village of Chagrin Falls as an additional insured. Dates should cover the planned time of display. Then the question was asked, do we need a deposit? I personally feel like we don't necessarily need a deposit on every application. The insurance, I think, is a barrier enough for them to, you know, if they have insurance. Signage, we've already addressed. Okay. So then this comment, Rob, I'd like you to speak to this because I had a question that's for you on this. So
Yeah.
Aaron had said, any fees are due upon approval, and then proposed that you would maintain a list of costs, electric, water, turf repair, which could be reviewed occasionally and updated by council. Is that going to be too burdensome for
We'll have to
administration?
look
Hold on,
at-
though. Let me-
We'll have to look
Hold on,
into
can I
that.
explain that thought?
Okay,
Can I
yeah,
explain that thought?
sure.
Is that, like, if you need, like, the water department supports people with bulk water purchases.
Yeah.
And we have costs for electricity that we pay. And rather than writing specific, like, it's $35 for this outlet into legislation, my recommendation is having the fees maintained by the CAO so that they can be adjusted and updated based on market conditions, and they're not written into legislation. Because I worry about burying details of, like, the cost of power. And we don't necessarily have to charge for power. It may not be necessary at this point. It may be a conversation they need to have in 10 years. But by having a list that's regularly maintained and updated by the CEO, it's something other parks do. It's been legally upheld in some of the court cases Dale shared with me. It allows us to be responsive to the market, but also not, like, overcharge people, because costs can also come down, not just go up. And I do think by having like turf repair, I mean, that's kind of an odd one, right? But, like, estimated, if you're
Do we have a way of charging for electricity?
Not really.
not at this point, we don't. I mean, you can charge a flat rate for a hookup. Like, if you want to hook up into a power thing, we're going to charge you $20.
I feel like, I guess for me, I mean, I know I'm only 1/3 of this committee, but I feel like I wouldn't want to put that in legislation or anything at this point, just because I really am, we have such a small staff and I feel like I don't want to, I want this, like, we've all been reading on this. One of the things that seems to happen when you create these application processes is eventually they just say there are no decorations because it was too much work. And I just don't want to make sure whatever we're doing is not too much work.
Well,
So,
yeah,
that's.
I think we could put in the application that, something that there may, it may be a charge for electricity or utility services.
Or that we reserve the right, I guess, or something. I mean,
Something
Dale
like that.
can address
That
that.
way, if administration feels like, this.
Right,
thing-
so we don't have to let them come in
Yeah.
and plug into our outlets or something. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying we list the possibility of charges. We
right.
direct to
Yeah.
exactly where
Yeah.
the charges can be located, which is what we would have to do to be compliant, is my understanding. And then we don't have, I'm not asking to charge people, and I come from an event background, so I'm not, like, the idea of paying for outlets and that stuff doesn't really phase me in the way I know it does phase other people. So
Yeah.
take that as a piece of perspective.
And we could say the same thing for, for ground repair. If somebody digs, what if somebody digs a great big hole,
Right.
something like that, but not detail it, but say that there's, that we have the option, the village has the option.
It's based
So-
on man hours of the current, salary
And
schedule.
they'll just decide, if they decide, oh, this isn't so bad, not a problem, or, yeah,
So-
these people really made a wreck out of this place.
We'll find some way to address the possibility of charges so we can avoid the village taking on costs of these
Right,
decorations.
without detailing it, so that they're aware that they might get charged something.
So I'll speak with the administration and also with Dale about that in terms of what the language would be for that. Okay. Village reserves the right to remove any decor that is damaged, dangerous, or not in line with this application. I think that's a good catch-all, because if something falls apart or something, I think our streets department, provided that's a legal thing for them to do, these are all private decorations. We should have the rights to come out and remove them.
Yeah.
Plus, if there's any damage to any property from the decoration, like you go to remove it and all of a sudden something falls and it damages something in the park, or damage,
A tree
putting
falls
something
off,
in,
a
our
pole, right.
planter beds get trampled, anything like that,
Ground staking is not permitted without any oversight from the service department. We've already addressed, I guess we have a lot of pipes we need to protect. So, no, here's the one I was getting to. No elements may be attached to trees. Okay, if they decorate trees in the park, so I'm not sure.
Well, that's a good point.
So that's where I was saying,
We
okay,
need to
that
tweak
one.
that maybe, but I mean,
Okay, so,
there needs to be
Yeah, that-
approval process for trees, because we've always had a rule about the trees, of touching trees, and we need to be careful.
okay,
That's
so
all.
this is something we need to sort out. Because we do let them, I guess, decorate evergreen trees in the park with lights. They put lights on them.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
That one is permanently installed, isn't it?
There are
That's-
many in the park that are permanently installed that they throw lights on.
They
So,
put lights on there are 3 pine trees out here beyond my house,
right.
in the
those are
park.
back.
and they put lights on them, and then they were still up at the
Right,
beginning
for
or end
here.
of January, beginning of February, and I kept calling Troy Young. And finally, Andrew Rocky made sure that they were taken down, but it's hard on those trees to leave those lights on for such a long time.
Okay,
Why
so-
don't we say in the areas that those trees, why don't we say you can't attach things to trees? And when we delineate those areas as permitted decoration spaces, we can say these trees may have lights, but no other garland or tinsel and yada, yada. And we can delineate it as part of the.
Of the
space
area.
parameters.
Okay, and that they have to be removed by a certain time and all that. Okay,
Or we will not let them do it again.
right. Okay, extension cords must be provided by and maintained by the organizer. All cords should be inspected regularly. Okay. No, that's good to know. Winter holiday decor may be placed between, you put November 8th to January 15th. We're in line with the same thing Nancy suggested. Seasonal decorations are not permitted at any other time of the year. I guess we just need to address that this is a special window, basically.
What do you consider seasonal?
I know, because we have other decorations at other times, so I think,
But what? Plants aren't decorations.
what if somebody wants to bring some giant inflatable flowers to celebrate spring?
Well, that's an art
It's
installation.
true, it is an art installation.
I mean, I guess my point is, like, if this committee's intending to look at overarching park rules, and those like the
Right.
other 9, 10 months of the year can be dealt
Temp-
with in regular park rules. We're just talking about high
I
traffic.
think that-
season.
But
The
how do you define
term-
seasonal?
So the term that I heard was in these, the things that I was reading were private temporary displays. Which
fine
they
with
are. It's a privately owned temporary display that's being put in a public park.
Yeah,
Um,
seasonal is a difficult word because you'd have to define it.
Right, seasonal.
That's
So
fine.
basically,
Keep a
we
note,
should
guys.
define that this period of time is a special period of time. What they also do is they have sometimes they'll have, and we may have this on the books already, rules about private temporary displays in parks. And then what they create is an exception period for the winter season. So this is the winter exception of November 8th to January 15th. And I don't know how we want to handle it. I don't know if that's maybe already handled. Maybe this is what we're creating as an exception. I
We
don't know.
don't have any rules.
We have no rule. Okay, so
We'll have to write
how to address
into the rules when we have the rules. So first we create rules with the window, I think, and then you go back and you create the exception. Do you know what I mean?
you create rules that are for the whole year, and then you create the exception that this is during the season.
Right, but we're backwards, right? So we're gonna write in the exception first
Okay,
and say, and then we can go back and clarify what rules would be for the rest of the year. Because the rest of the year, none of this, the rest of the year, a lot of this does not work.
we handle this differently at other times of the year, correct? Okay, so, and so that ends the application suggestions from Aaron. We did already address the delineated locations. So I guess where I'm at with this is that we need to get a map. We need to delineate some areas and define the sizes of decorations that can go in those areas, and perhaps restrictions on each of those areas. We need to clarify the sign issue on what we can and can't do in terms of regulating signs that might appear with these decorations. And we need to, I guess, finalize these particular application items. So I would hope that we could have another meeting in the near future where we have those 3 items done, and then we can address, moving forward with that. So we'll have a map, we'll have an actual draft application, and we'll have a answer on signs. Does that sound workable? And I would like to circulate that across administration and parks and anybody who's interested, so that we get some comment and before we come back and meet again, and hopefully then be able to vote and say, okay, let's move forward with this, or see what our next steps are. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, can we make sure the word draft is like very clearly all over that so no one feels like it?
Stamp it like across the middle with the big draft sign. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, I agree. I mean, we don't want anybody, this is at the very start of the process. I'm just trying to keep ferrying us forward. We all know how slowly government works, which is by design, because we need to have a lot of comment. But we want to have this done by May so that thinking if we say May, we'll get it done by June. That's when our application process would open, and we want next holiday season to be different, like to be able to have something in place, correct?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would ask for applications to be due June 1st so that we decided in June, like during the month of June through Parks and Administration, where things would go. Because the JCs tend to order their trees in mid-July is what they told me.
Okay,
So I'm just trying to work with the people who currently are doing decoration and making sure we sort of help them with their deadlines too. We're not creating a hindrance. I don't want to be, I don't want this to be onerous. I just want to make it more organized.
agree. And I agree, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Do we have to have a deadline of that early in the year? I mean, if we first come, first serve, they want to put in their application in May to set that up, that's fine. Is it really needed to say and the only reason I bring this up is I can see if we have a deadline mid-year, someone coming to us in
I miss it.
October saying, hey, I'd like to put up this kind of decoration. Well, sorry, the deadline was July. It just
I
seems
agree.
like
I agree. I think that
Could we do June and then say we'll accept based on space availability afterwards?
first
Yeah.
come, first serve.
Yeah, because there might not be any space left after that, so.
And that's fine. Then you just tell them there's nothing, all our spaces are committed, first come, first serve.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have the open rolling piece at the end of it. I just want to make sure I also don't want to be this thing where you have to know they have to be in early because the JCs are going to do theirs early. And then, I want to give it fair access to by being honest about
So
what.
yeah,
the realistic
that's
deadline is.
something else that we need to address, not that we're necessarily have this problem, but so if we make the application period, and I agree, I think the best way to do it is June 1st through June 30th with rolling after that, with the idea that, look, any applications that come in between June 1st and June 30th have to be handled equally or fairly. So that's the problem that happens in a lot of places. What if you get, we've never had this problem, and I hope we never do, but say, you have 15 designated locations and we get 20 applications. What some cities end up doing is they have to create a lottery and say, these are the people that these are the decorations that went to different places. But I think if we create just that window and say, this is the application period during which those rules apply, and then anything that comes in later, it's on a first come, first served, space available basis. I think that works. I'm going to pass that by Dale and see if that works. Because yeah, you're right. I think most applications will come in late, and that's fine. So, that's fine. I mean, because that's when most people start thinking about that stuff, Anyway, okay, that's all I have. I mean, it sounds like we have a lot of things to iron out. I guess I'd like to have another meeting in like 2 or 3 weeks and see if we can get this done then. When does that put us at? Let me see, like the end of March?
Yeah, works.
Does
for me.
that work for everyone in town? Nobody's taking a big vacation? Okay,
Yeah,
I
that is-
know.
Wish.
Well, isn't the last week of March, school?
Yeah, but there's nowhere to go
They're
for
not going
spring
anywhere.
break.
Yeah, nobody's going anywhere. Exactly.
Some
The
people.
one advantage of a pandemic, it's so easy to plan meetings. Okay.
It is.
So,
I
okay,
love the Zoom.
so end of March, I will send out an email and we'll try to get a time that hopefully won't be when school has been canceled and 2 of our members have acquired childcare responsibilities during the day.
Oh,
And that's-
do you always meet on, what day is this? Thursdays?
No, we don't have a set meeting time. We don't have a set meeting time. So we can arrange a meeting if it works better for you. If you would like to get the map to Parks and take a look at it before we come back and discuss, then we could set it up so that works for you guys. I don't know when you meet.
We don't have another meeting until the first week of April, April 7th.
So it'd be after that. I just want to keep us rolling so that we
Right.
get it. But I guess if we can still send it to Parks after.
We can meet and get a little bit more out there and
Right.
situated and then send it to them for a review.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so we'll still plan the end of March. I'll send out an email to get a time that works for everybody, and then we'll plan on sending that once we get a first whack at a map. We'll send it to Parks and get their comment. Okay,
Okay.
for April.
Perfect.
All right. So that's all I've got. Anyone else got anything for us under miscellaneous?
It's all on the agenda, right?
Rob doesn't have any surprise legislation that we have to handle? No. good.
No.
Thank
No,
goodness.
but he'll make something up.
I was like, wait a minute, there's a contract. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn our meeting then at 11:43. Thank you all for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for including me too.
Well, thank you, Anne.
I appreciate it.
It's great.
Thanks.